Very much, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I will just go through the first topic, and then as the questions evolved, I can input. So, distinguished colleagues, I will be reading from my note. The question is not whether Africa can finance its own development, because it can. The question is whether it will choose to. The resources exist. What is lacking is the alignment of political will, institutional integrity, and public trust. To achieve financial sovereignty, Africa must transition from external dependency to proactive internal strategies and reforms. This includes seizing potential opportunities for growth and investing in innovative technologies, but most importantly, recalibrating the continent's position in global financial governance. Under South Africa's leadership, the G20 offers Africa a unique opportunity to amplify its collective voice. Today, I will address three interlinked challenges at the heart of Africa's development: fair global debt restructuring, the persistent burden of debt servicing over social investment, and the urgent need for innovative financing to close the climate and development gap. So how do we ensure a fair global debt restructuring framework? The G20, as a leading forum for international economic cooperation, holds a pivotal role in shaping debt architecture. To ensure fairness, the G20 must A, improve the common framework through more effective creditor coordination, 2, implement standardized and transparent procedures, and C, expand eligibility and relief scope to include middle-income countries. More specifically, it can champion transparency, promote inclusive decision-making, standardize processes, support debt for development swaps. Now, why debt servicing outspaces social investment in Africa? Despite progress, many African countries spend more on unsustainable levels of debt servicing than on health or education. Capital flight, illicit financial flows, and anemic tax systems bleed resources that could have built schools, hospitals, and roads. The reasons for this are multifaceted. They include a legacy of costly borrowing, commodity price volatility, limited fiscal buffers, conditionalities, and austerity. Now, what are the innovative financing mechanisms for Africa's climate and development gap? The compounded impact of the USA's withdrawal from the Paris Agreement and the broader failure of developed nations to honor climate finance commitments not only leaves African countries vulnerable to natural hazards and environmental degradation, but also deprives them of the funding necessary for climate adaptation, resilience building, and post-disaster recovery. Recent G20 developments in climate and finance provide an opportunity to amplify Africa's adaptation finance priorities through the Sustainable Finance Working Group. In 2024, the SFWG endorsed the G20 Sustainable Finance Roadmap, which prioritizes the mobilization of capital for adaptation in vulnerable regions, although implementation remains uneven. South Africa's presidency offers a pivotal opportunity to leverage these platforms to push for the operationalization of the new collective quantified goal at COP30, which is about to start in Belém, Belize, in the next few days. Scaling grant-based adaptation finance and centering Africa's national adaptation plans in G20 finance track discussions. Thus, bridging Africa's climate and development funding gap requires bold, creative solutions, including blended finance, green and blue bonds, special drawing rights reallocation, carbon markets, and debt for nature swaps, and digital financial inclusion. In conclusion, the G20 must act with urgency and solidarity to reform the global debt system, while African leaders and partners pursue innovative financing as a strategic necessity in the face of global shifts and declining aid flows. Only then can we ensure that debt does not stifle, but rather supports Africa's aspirations for health, education, and a just climate. I mean, we're all convinced that Africa's future must be funded by Africans. Now, the first point on the youth that you are talking about, where you say they are on subsistence farming and then they go to cities, there is no jobs. And there is also the very reality of recruitment into those extremist groups. And we can see there are plenty of examples from the Sahel to Mozambique and so on. So this is something that we need also to keep an eye on, because this securitization is becoming more and more important on the continent. And we see more countries like the Chinas, the UAEs investing in security of their investment. And I think it's another debate on the mineral extraction for development. These are also a potential deterrent to the development gains that have been reached so far. And we're talking about the SDGs. We all know they're not going to be met because there's been a lot of drawbacks. So these are some of the points that we need to keep in mind. And my last point would be, yes, it is true that Ubuntu can offer, let's say, economic potentially transformative model for equitable global finance. But the actions must also remain with us as citizens, pushing our representative, pushing our leaders, involving the youth, the women, and civil society in holding leaders accountable. This is very important. The African Union, again, for me, it has issues, but it remains one of the main institutions, including with the regional economic commissions, that can actually unite the voices and present it as one. Of course, different countries are at different levels of development, of social justice, and so on. But this is the institution where we need to actually shake up things, and we have to push the youth to be part of those discussions. Because I'm looking at Agenda 63, we are not going to be the ones implementing or pushing it forward. It's going to be the youth. It's going to be women in business coming up. It's going to be civil society pushing for more and more social justice. And already on silencing the guns, we're not doing very well, because you can count the conflicts on the continent. So we need to really try to see how at an individual level, but also as a group sitting here, we can push by contributing to our parliamentarians, our movements we are involved in, and push it through policies and also at the government level. How do we do that? So that would be my point, to say that, yeah, we need to focus on the next generation. They call them the Gen Zs. They know what they want. They know that enough is enough of pillaging the continent. So we need to work with them in that sense, and with women. Thank you so much.